Next up, we have Guido from Germany, who will be talking about taking your ideas, connecting it to the Things network in minutes. He's been working with a lot of kids in his local area and turning their ideas into reality. Please give a big warm welcome to Guido!
So, hi everybody, this is Guido Berger, as introduced. I'm going to talk today about the complexity and how we tame it. So if you have been working with LoRaWAN or any things which goes out into the wild, you see a lot of challenges. That's one side. And the other side is, if you want to start things by ideation, starting with kids playing, there's a lot of technology in there, and you want to make it easy to get the ideas done quickly. So this is something I'm going to talk about, so how we tame the complexity, and I want to show you how you can deploy complex sensors in a couple minutes to the Internet of the Things using the TTN network. We're going to show today, I don't know if it's the first one, but we use a visual block which helps us to make it really easy to configure the sensor node and hook up sensors. And the last thing I'm covering in today's presentation is how you build a case. And I think we have seen many cases during the day which are going out in the wild. You need to make your sensors rugged, durable, weatherproof. Also, that's what I'm covering as part of the presentation. So, as said, Guido Berger, I'm a sailor, I'm an engineer, but most important, I'm a maker, so I make things worse. You see, I'm part of the organization, but this is things what I'm building. You can see it, what it is. It's a snowblower chain topped with a skateboard, and a laptop is just to code it, so you can balance on a skateboard and drive the snow chains underneath. So this is the cool stuff I'm building. I've built a smartwatch myself. You can charge that for a whole day operation in 3 minutes and not 2 hours like other products. Well, it's not a product, it's a prototype. And it turned into a rocket clock, or I'm doing Verb. So I do all great things based on technology which is available, which was in the past not easy to build on. I'm doing that in a fab lab. I use SMD soldering oven, so no magic behind that, but you can even build complex things. So you see me always in that shirt. I think I have only one shirt when I'm on stage. I do a lot of trainings and talks in the community, and that's part of the talk today. All what I do is part of a community work. That's what I like. What I don't like is wires. So if you start with wires, you get lost quickly. So the other thing I like is playing with Legos. And this was part of a design thinking workshop I did a while back. And that turned into a thing which I'm going to introduce to you today as well, which you use for the community work. It's called the Iot Octopus. I think there was a question early on how we get to that, but it is really like building things together like Lego blocks, adding it onto the hardware, using existing technology which is out there. So it's an ESP8266 as a core processor, Wi-Fi connection. You can connect anything which is out there in the wild from Adafruit, Spark, from all these sensors. It's all plug and play. It's nothing where you need wires. It's really built for kids at school. You can't break anything. Well, you could theoretically, but in a normal operation, you can't break anything. And you can quickly innovate based on just adding those blocks together. So you see in this picture here, what we put on is displays. On the top, there are sensors for environmental data. We heard a lot about environmental sensors these days. They are built into the platform and into this device, and you can easily add plug and play things. You see roughly how that works. As we are part of a community work with what I do, this is all open hardware, open source, so you can get the design at OSH Park. You can build your own PCB with that, and that's what we actually did before Christmas started. We had the idea in the Thing Network community in Stuttgart. I don't know, is Mirko in the room? So we have a couple guys from Stuttgart here. And we thought, why we're not trying to build our own octopuses and hook that to the LoRa network. So we basically got people in the room, haven't soldered before, and at the end, after 3 hours, we had everybody, one of those devices up and running. So this is part of the community work that we are doing here, sharing things, making things open, making things available and easy to run. So all that turned into something that I want to share today with you. Education. We talked about kids, working with kids. We heard other talks today about working with kids. We have this notion, making things easy, accessible, understandable, knowing what's behind the Internet of the Things. And so we did 2016, the first hackathon for schools on IoT. Maybe there were others somewhere else, but especially in Germany, it was the first hackathon for schools. We went to schools based on the kid, gave them some sensors, and just let them play with the sensors and their ideas. And that turned out that we built a community together with the university in Trier or the Umweltcampus Birkenfeld. Klaus Gollmer is in the room, who is a very helpful hand in managing the community and developing software together with the students and testing that. So we reached a level there where we can really easy build things for new projects and give students an entry just based on the things that I talked earlier on, Legos, building blocks, getting things easy together. Don't think about the complexity. Think first about your idea, your invention that you want to build, and not about wires or what are power consumption or things like that. Just start building things and find out how they are useful and how they work. So part of that hackathon, we got 38 teams together, and they built great, amazing ideas. And part of that was basically invention that we got there. We got this, what we call the super block for the Thing network. And I'm going to show you how that works in a bit. So you have a visual interface. It's all based on the Arduino IDE, nothing new we wanted to create here, no new development environments. It's an open source, Eclipse-based project, ArduBlock, where you can build your own blocks and add functionality to it. And you see here, you just have one big block, the big blue block in the middle, and you're going to configure your sensors, your network configuration. You will see that later on how that works with the Thing network. Here you see it with the ThingSpeak network, but it's very similar. You have one block, you just configure it, and then you see here on the other side the many sensors that you can plug into that. Maybe I give you an idea how that looks like. So we just have this little octopus, and maybe you see the octopus logo on the back side, and you just snap in a cable like this, and you add your sensor, and you're done. That's the hardware configuration part, and then you just move the blocks into it, and you're done. And while doing so, we thought, well, there are tons of ideas coming from the students. Why don't we do that more often? So that's sort of what we are driving forward. Now, this is all, set up, how we get to the octopus, why we do that. We want to get innovation out there. We want to make students and kids get easy access to the Internet of the Things. And so that started the journey. And now, moving into the Thing network part. Here you see we have modules that we can snap onto the octopus. This is a display, and you just snap it on here, and you run. And there are other shields available, like from Adafruit, motor drivers, more complex things that you can use building your own robots, for instance. But there are also a variety of shields available. Dan Watson, to mention here, has done awesome work with a couple of those LoRa modules. But we are going to use here today the Adafruit wing for LoRaWAN. And we need to do a quick modification to that to make it work. That is easy working and that you still have enough AOs to build your own projects on top of that. So there's a thing that you need to do. It's a little hack that you're going to do. Basically, you have to add two diodes and a short wire like here, and you're set. Then you can run whatever you want. If you want to see that later on in action, we have workshop planned later on, so you can try it out and see how it actually runs. So with that, you have modules for a variety of use cases. You can use the Wi-Fi module still, trying your, whatever you want, your application. You can do the over-the-air update through Wi-Fi, still while you're testing your application, and then you can hook up whatever communication channel you want to use, or displays, or whatever is needed. So now, here's the introduction to the real thing network, Superblock, what we call it. We built a nice introduction to that, so this is all on the web. You can download it, you can play with it. It's all open, so we are not hiding things. We want to get the community engaged and build their own ideas. So we really needed to build training materials and course materials for the students as well. And there's probably more to come. So as I don't have a laptop hooked up, as said, you can see that live later on in the workshop. I want to explain you roughly the block, the blue thing you pull in. You have on top the right, the red, that's the configuration, the device application, and this application session key. You need, of course, a little decoder to get your data right, encrypted and visible for your later integration. And then you're off to run. And by the way, taming the complexity, you want to have multiple power sources later on. This is all built in, so you can run, like I do it here, on batteries. You can hook up various antennas you want to, and you can plug in a solar panel if you want to get power through the sun to power it. So there's really a variety of things that you can build with the same Lego blocks, with the same basic components here. Now, let's go through quickly how you would build a project based on this. You probably have all access to the TTH console. You know how to set up an application. And then you probably end up with something like that. You have a device with an application assigned to, and you get your device OI application session key, all that weird stuff. So when I started working with the Thing Network, that was the worst thing to start with. I got a code example from the Limbic library, if you know that. It's the Arduino library for the ThingNets and for that chipset. And then there was something like big endian, little endian. You need to return or flip the hex code, stuff like that. Have you done that? Went you through that experience, working with these, weird things? This is a bad experience to start with. This is really a bad experience. As I said, we want to work with the kids and make it easy to make their invention able, or to enable them to invent things and make things happen quickly. This is probably not the right answer here, but of course we need those things from security and configuration point of view. So just copy them over. By the way, who knows what OI means? Have you ever thought about that? I asked myself the other day, what is EUI meaning? I haven't had a clue for, whatever it is. I think something like a MAC address or unified identifier that is used there. So sometimes we use these abbreviations as they are and don't ask us what is behind that. So going back to the Arduino block, now we go into the simple mode. You start your project, you just had your idea what you want to do. Maybe you want to monitor environmental data in your at your school. We heard this morning there's a project starting in the UK doing so. So this would be a perfect starting point. Start your Arduino IDE, don't go to the coding part, just press on Tools, and there you will see the Ardo block. The Ardo block looks like Scratch. It's based on the same libraries, basically. So it's very familiar. You see on the left-hand side all the things that you need for the Internet of the Things, MQTT protocols, ThingSpeak, whatever. We made those protocols, which are very famous in IoT, available like blocks. And so we did, as said, with the TTN as well. Now you see, you just open the core frame for your application with a setup and a loop part. And now you just move in the TTN, OTAA. We're supporting both provisioning or configuration modes here. There are 2 blocks available. And then you just copy those 3 numbers, those 3 keys over. You don't need to flip them or think about the right order. You just copy and paste those 3 numbers over. And then you decide which port you're going to use, if you want to change that at all. And then you have, in this example, 6 fields available for your sensor data. So you can plug in 6 sensors, like we've seen before, snap the sensor in, and choose from the library the right sensor, and just move it over there. So now, as sensors are quite complex things to work with, probably you guys know each sensor has a weird, or most sensors have a weird protocol. If that's something like easy, like this water moisture sensor, then this is just a value that you get out of it from the analog channel. But if you're using these complex environmental sensors like from Bosch, with this tiny thing on here, you have I2C protocols and stuff like that. We don't want to care about that. But the Arduino community is taking care of about all these protocols. There are huge libraries available. So it's easy to use those libraries and plug them into that. So we're hiding all that behind the scenes, behind Ardo block. And now you just pick like the environmental sensor, and you choose what data you want to have from that sensor. In this case, you're looking at barometric, moisture, and temperature. So you just plug it in, choose the right values from the right side. This red boxes are the values that you can choose from the sensor. And you're done. That's your project. So how much time you need for that? I think more time you need on the ideation part, thinking about your project. What do you want to do with that? That's probably the most time you spend of, and maybe the focus you should keep. And now you go to the bench, just plug the module in, choose the sensors, add it to that, copy the keys over, and you're done. Now I could stop my presentation because that's easy as it is. But let's look a little bit under the hood. Now, what you get from this Ardo block plug-in in the Ardo IDE is really a code snip. Of course, you need to have code that's compiled and pushed then to the hardware device. By the way, it doesn't need to be the Octopus. It can be any Arduino device that you hook up into the Arduino IDE. And you can use roughly the same framework. So you see here the weird stuff that you don't want to code with, the hex sequences, get that all right. If there's something wrong at one, it doesn't work. But now it works like charm, because you just copy the codes, the keys over, and the code is the program code is created for you. Here you see we have the values, the 3 values that we have seen in the screen before: humidity, temperature, and pressure. The barometric pressure, and those values are going to assign to a value an array that we then push into the queue of the thing network using the LMIC library. Here you go. So if you want to try that later on, it works really like you see. Plug, play, deploy, run. And here you see a success. Packages are queued. We got the logs. In case something goes wrong, we can see and debug it. But most cases, there's nothing going wrong. It works like charm. And here you go. you see in the Thing network your data. I was struggling always. The first time when I started with the network, how do I do this encoding stuff? How do I do the mapping with the array, all that boring stuff? And so this is working really like charm. And now you can focus on the further integration, how you want to proceed with the data, how you want to analyze the data. Do you want to push it to the ThingSpeak network? Do you want to use any if-then-else integration or doing more data analytics? Now focus on the application. And this is all made for students to start easy. And by the way, you can use that in your professional life also. It's not just for students. And here you see, this is one of the other copy and paste that you need is the decoder. The decoder is aligned with the code that you have seen. Probably you need to do some coding there or tweaking there. How many of you have been working with a decoder already? So you're familiar with that, how you tweak that. Okay, here you go. Just go to the integration, kickstart, if then that integration, enter your another key. You need a lot of keys, security is important. And then here on the top you see the values popping up on your mobile phone. So you have a lower one to mobile phone integration in, let's say, 5 minutes. We can later on try the benchmark in the workshop, how quickly we could add new sensors. And just to give you an idea, I just want to make the complexity a little higher here, because you might think, oh, well, this one sensor, this is easy to do. I write just a code and I'm done. Think about an RFID sensor. How are you going to build the code reading from the RFID sensor? This is a spectrum visual thing, so it detects the spectrum of things that you put in front of that. So with that you can detect an orange. Is that an orange? Is that whatever object is it? So it's like a tiny camera, and probably one of the most complex things which are out there. Getting that connected to something useful, wow. You need to do a lot of coding. Just plug it in, get it connected with the Thing network. And on here, on that board, we have something. This is still the same octopus, just has a variation in parts being deployed. Here's so-called grid ion. This thing is a tiny thermal camera that you can use to detect objects. So if you want to deploy that in the wild, in the woods, and you want to look for the fox or for deers are moving on, you could use something like that. So sensors could be damn complex. And here you see, there are tons of sensors out there. Most of them work plug and play. For some, you need to copy over an Arduino library, and maybe people start building their own blocks and share it in the community so that others can leverage it. Now, one more thing that I want to share with you is if you're going to, that's the third complexity I want to touch here. If you go to deploy now your little thing that you built, you found the right sensors, you get it all together, you have still a bunch of electronics, you have an antenna, you have maybe a solar panel, yeah? How you get that into the wild. We have seen amazing housings before. This is really engineering work, make them rugged. There are no standard housing out there. But we thought maybe we can make there a big change to make it easy. And so it started with that, picture, going to the fab lab, heating on the laser cutter, trying to cut holes into a case, and then I thought, this is not waterproof. This will be not at all waterproof. I need to get wires in there. I need to get antennas in there, stuff like that. I got sort of stuck with that. But then I found, through some exercises and tests and talking to people, talking to engineers, talking to the community. We started with a typical thing that you get at the metal workshop or where you get your gardening equipment. This distribution box for power. Well, this is nice, but it's not really rugged. And now think about an environmental sensor that wants to smell the air. You don't get air into that. It's just sealed. And if you put a sensor into that, you smell the plastic, but you don't smell anything else. So I found by accident and by the talks and trying and so on, that what we wear in our outdoor jackets, this Gore-Tex stuff, this is cool, and this is available as labels, and you can put these labels on the holes and seal with that the case. Now I started to do some research there and testing with alcohol if the gas is still going into the housing. So done a lot of testing there. And here, that's what I can share with you as really a nice housing that probably everybody can build in is Fab Lab makerspace. You just drill holes, not cut holes. Drilling machine is always available. And I've stolen those little labels here from, if you think about your light in the car, the front light in the car. And this is true for every housing that you deploy outside. If you seal them maximum as you want, you seal also the air which is in there and the moisture which is in there. So typical housing, and you see it also with the TTN gateways like the Merklink, they have these little holes where they can breathe, where they can exchange air with the outside, but moisture is not going in there. And they use exactly the same things, the same membranes basically. So I've stolen from some friends in the automotive industry those labels, and I'm trying to make the source available to the community too. So these are labels, Gore-Tex labels from the automotive industry, sealing typically a light in a car, so the front lights in a car, and making them breathable, but there's no moisture going in there. But if the temperature is going down or the pressure is going down, the air can still flow. And done a lot of testings there. This works like charm. You can really use a VOC sensor. You don't get particles through that, so if you're looking for a particular sensor or something like this, that won't work. But for gas, this works perfectly. So with that, you can build your own carrier board, hook up your components. Here you see the LoRa module hooked up. Just plug it in there. By the way, I use a PCB antenna here on top for the LoRa. And so you have everything on one PCB board. Everybody can build its own design if they want, or adjust to that. It's really easy. There's no magic for this PCB design. The only thing which is added is a power converter. So with that, I have up to 36 volts can be converted to the right level. So it's easy plugging external power supplies like solar panels to it. And you're ready to run. So the sensor sits here, goes on to the side where you set the membranes, and you can breathe air, and you can make your own environmental air sensor, which is rugged for the outside. So with that, I'm going to close out with the mentioning that we have at 3:30 the workshop. And but there's always one last thing. If you now think how this thing will be further developed and what could be the next version of the Octopus, you see it here on stage, you see it on the screen. We don't need any more the other foot shield. If you think about cost, those shields are damn expensive. So I think they want $20 or something like that for the RF M95W board. If you get a module as such, it's just $6 or $5, depending where you source it. And now in the latest design, you just put the LoRa module back on the board, and you have the freedom now to have a display or anything else on top of that. So this is sort of the evolution of the board where it goes to the next level. And two things. If you want to reach out to me, you might find me on the beach. I'm doing a lot of projects with kids, or my kids at the beach. Typically in the summertime, I start working on projects like this. And here's the web page, the Twitter. So if you want to see more crazy projects and get more shared information, go to the web page, follow us, and or you can reach by email to me. You find on the web page, which is named here FabLab Iot Octopus, you find all the Arduino package to download. You don't need to install anything. You don't need to install libraries or any. It's a portable version of ArduBlock. It's super easy to install. You don't install. You just download and unzip the package. Unfortunately, it's 500 meg or something like that. So it takes a while to download, but you get all the sources and documentation with the package. And I don't know, still some videos included? I'm not sure, but it's still a bit to download. And just start playing with it, or reach out to us if you have any great ideas or you want to do something at your school. As we wanted to share code with you, you can have my decoder, but that's just for reference. So that's all what I want to share with you. Taming complexity. 5 minutes, you can have your sensor, your complex sensor up and running. Find a housing. You hear the ideas that we came up with it. I think it's a smart way to deploy your sensors in the wild. And the Thing Network is really about getting things out there. It's not made for the lab environment. It's meant for use in the wild, in the dirt. And that's the basis maybe to start. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Guido, for sharing your projects. It's really cool to see all the activities that you've been involved with, and even how you've been engaging with the community. For those of you who are not aware, Stuttgart is one of the most active communities that we have in our global ecosystem, and something which we all can learn something from. Now, I'm quite active on Twitter for the Things Network, and I manage the social media side of things as well. And I've always seen Iot Octopus Twitter handle is one of the most active ones. I'm curious, what's the story behind this octopus name?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. So if you look at the back of the PCB, there's an octopus on it, and the story is really funny. Glad you raised the question, because I was always looking for, typically you have these green PCB boards, boring stuff, nothing kids would to work with. And also was thinking about a name, we think technical. And then one day my older daughter came home from a painting course, and she had an uncompleted octopus painted. And I thought, hey, that's cool. I want to have that octopus on the board. And I tried it, and it's really, if you go into that design, making logos or any graphical design on a PCB, that's really fun. And it worked out. And then we call it Octopus. And then the question is, why Octopus? So it started accidentally becoming Octopus. My daughter just showed up with that painting. I thought it's cool. But now if you think a little bit further, it makes total sense. The octopus had typically 8 arms, and this is roughly what you can do here. You can add arms here, you can add arms here, you can add arms here. So the power is multiple sources. You can have a QI charger. By the way, there's a lot of Easter eggs in this board. You can have a QI charger just soldered on the back side, and this is going to be wireless charged. You can have a solar panel. So there are a lot of arms beside the sensors that you can add to that board. Probably you end up with more than 8 arms.
Wow, that's a pretty cool story. I would love to share this with the rest of the community as well. Do we have any questions for Guido from the audience? Any questions?
Hello. I'm from Geosprite from the UK. I just wanted to ask, because you mentioned you've been using the wing in your existing board and you're going forward with other RF module. So you're using the LMIC Arduino stack.
Right.
Have you tried running the LMIC stack straight onto the Adafruit's feather board, for example, instead of the wing, using the wing?
You can run it. If you look at in this design and it goes closer, it's really very similar to the feather design, and it's compatible with it. So you can run it also with a standard feather wing or with a feather when board, whatever you want. So this will work like the same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? All right. Thank you so much, Guido. Really nice having you here.
You're welcome. Thank you.